Welcome back to another episode of Unlearned and Reborn, a podcast where old habits are unlearned and new ones are reborn. I don't think little me could have ever imagined that I would have the courage to get in front of a camera, say what I'm saying, have the courage to edit what I'm saying, have the courage to still post what I'm saying. Like, she's proud. And I told myself, I said, even if I help one woman from this podcast, from this episode, I am doing little Shania justice, because, once I decided that I was not going to allow this trauma to define me, I started giving little Shania her flowers. Hey, how y'all feeling? How y'all doing today? Hey, YouTube. Hey, Apple Podcasts. Hey, Spotify. I am here with you, and if you're listening or watching, that means that you came back for another episode. So give it up for yourselves. Yes. Thank you so much for coming. Today's episode is going to be a little heavier than normal, so I just want to go ahead and put out the disclaimer that today's episode we're going to be discussing sexual trauma, things that may include but are not limited to molestation, pornography, and childhood trauma. Okay. If you're okay with that, keep listening. But if that's something that you're just not ready for, I understand. So I just want to start by saying that forgiving my abusers was something that was a gradual thing. I don't ever feel like it was something that after the act was committed that I said, okay, bet. This is definitely going to be my next step of triumph. I'm going to forget these people for violating me in this way, and everything's going to be peachy, everything's going to be good. I would like to say it was like that, but absolutely it was not. So, my first childhood trauma experience was at a slumber party that I can remember, at least, or the one that had the most impact, I should say, was at a slumber party. And I remember I begged my mom, I wanted to go over to this girl's house. Like, please, let me go over to this girl's house. And my mom was like, okay, fine, whatever, fine. I was like, it's supposed to be a summer party. The girls had, and she would always talk about these summer parties she would have and how fun they were. And certain select girls would get to, go to the parties. And I was like, dang, I don't ever get invited to these parties. Like, what is going on? I'm trying to get into parties. I'm trying to be the it girl. Put a pin right there. Baby girl has always been the it girl, period. But, I just didn't know it then. So, wink to younger Shania. If you can see you now, you are definitely the it girl. Press play. So, I wanted to go to this party, or this slumber party, and my mom finally let me go. So, I ended up going over there. And I just remember when I came in there, and I had packed like a decent little bag, y'all. Even though we was all in apartments, like the place wasn't far. I remember I got inside, and I was just like, some heck of a party, because baby, where's everybody else at? Like, this cannot be that big of a deal. And I just remember when I got in, like, all the lights were off, and I was like, okay. And she's like, oh, we're just gonna go to my room. And I remember I was asking her, like, okay, where is everybody else? Like, you hyped this up to be some big extravaganza, and it's only me, you, and another girl. What's going on? And yeah, so I don't want to get like crazy into the details, but I'll just give the overview. And so that was the first time that I had been molested. And I think I was about 11, 12 maybe. I don't remember the exact age, but I think about 11. And I just remember I was in a closet. And I was in the closet with the other girl and another with two other girls. And, it was, happening. And I just remember, you always hear about, trauma victims, and they say, or, sexual assault survivors, because I don't know how y'all feel about the word victim, but survivors. And they'll say things like, oh, I've had an outer body experience. Like, I felt like I was outside of my body. Y'all, that is so true. I literally felt like I just was out of my body. I just removed myself from my body. Like, I could still feel everything that was happening, and I could still hear, but it's like I just I was outside of my body. I remember, and I just remember thinking, like, one, where's this girl's mom? Like, you said your mom was going to be here. Like, her mom was not there, like, at all. And then I remember, too, like, the other girl that was involved, I'm thinking, okay, like, we all go to school together. So I'm thinking y'all, like, best friends or whatever. And it's just like, this is what y'all do? Like, yeah. And it was like they were so fluid with it, like just so like comfortable with it. I'm like, okay, I cannot be y'all first muse. You know what I mean? And typically I found that people that are doing it to other children, they are not that's not their first time. Like they are doing that and they are also victims of the act that they are doing, if that makes sense. So I remember the next day, I left and everything, and I just remember I was just like, I don't ever want to go to a sleepover ever again. And then not only was I like that, I was just the first thing, of course, they tell you, that's what the girl said, don't tell nobody because they're gonna think you're nasty and this is a secret, secrecy, the whole, nine. So, I didn't say anything to anyone. And I just remember it made me look not only at them differently, but it just like opened my eyes to the world differently. Like there are real deal monsters out here. Like real deal monsters out here like that are preying on little girls, little boys, or that just want to take something that is not theirs, but they want it for themselves. So I just remember I left there like, this does not feel great. However, it didn't, because I really didn't know how to come out and talk about it or tell somebody like, hey, this thing just happened to me last night or, at the time a couple weeks ago. I just remember I would get these urges about other girls. Like I would feel like something rising in me like, oh, okay, she's pretty. And it's like, oh, okay, like I think I like her. Like I kind of would like to be her friend or more than her friend. And I just remember feeling like that. Like I'm a Christian girl. Like my mom's a pastor, my dad's a pastor. And I just remember feeling these feelings and being like, okay, one, this feels nasty. I feel disgusting. I want to stand under the shower head and bathe for hours. Like this is the most worst feeling. And I just remember the more that thing rose up in me, the more gross I felt in a way, but the more I just wanted to like quiet it. Like, okay, I gotta feed this monster because if I don't feed it, it's just going to continue to grow and just fluster. Okay. So that's when I was introduced to pornography. So pornography, let me just put a pin here and just explain pornography because I know a lot of people feel different ways about it, but knowing what I know now and just being introduced to it the way that I was introduced, trying to quiet something within myself that truly needed to be brought out. It needed to be brought to the light so I could have gotten the proper help, that I needed. Um, Pornography is such a fantasy way to portray sex because in the videos, whether it's girl, whether it's same sex or heterosexual sex, they are portraying that this sex is just beautifully amazing, and the way that you're touched is just amazing, and this, and the more the merrier, or do it like this and do it like, before I knew it, I was trying to shape myself into this porn star pretty much, even though at the time I wasn't having sex. I didn't even have sex until later on in my adulthood. And I just remember that I was introduced to pornography, I was introduced to masturbation because of the molestation. So I'm like, okay, now again, these feelings are awakened in a little girl that's 11. Like I'm not even worried about sex, but now, you know, certain touches are now, awakening things in me as if I were, an adult woman. And that was probably not probably, that was the most confusing time of my life because I'm like, God, one, I'm going back and forth to God, like, God, why did you even allow me to go to this sleepover? Like, why you saw this? I know you saw this coming. You knew that this was gonna happen. Why didn't you protect me from these people? Like, now what? Now I have this confusion inside of me. I have this sexual identity crisis thing. I've never ever dated a girl, but I've, had encounters with other girls, and I just remember thinking, like, now I'm angry because I'm like, oh my gosh, if this thing would have never happened to me, I would never feel this way towards other women. And, I would never have this thing. And, it was just a very shameful, um, dirty feeling stage of my life. And I was so young to be carrying around a weight that big, like a little girl with a boulder on her shoulders. So I just want to pause and talk to other girls or women that experienced this type of thing as a young girl. And I want you to take a moment to really see the young girl again. If you're willing to even look into a mirror and look at your adult self and remember that younger girl, she's in there still. She's in there. And there were so many times along, further down the line past this and other things that happened, because it happened again as a teenager. For a couple of years, it was happening. And then in my adulthood in the military, it happens again. So it's like, I just remember thinking of the little girl, and I'm like, I have to come to a point where I can heal so that she can be healed. Because all that continues to happen when we have trauma, right? And we continue to age, and, or, the trauma happens again. All we're doing is just continuously adding the trauma on top, on top, on top. Like I said, if you can imagine a frail 11-year-old girl, because I was skinny, and it's like I have a huge boulder on my back, and it's like every time that it happens, add another boulder, add another boulder, add another boulder. So by the time I'm in my 20s and I got married, I used to have nightmares. Like, my husband could attest that he was like, babe, last night you were screaming, like, don't touch me. Like, what was that about? And I'm so blessed to have the husband that I have, because I was able to come, before we got married, I told him all of this. And he was like, okay, that doesn't bother me. Like, whatever I can do to help type thing. And I remember for like the first, off and on, for probably like the first 3 or so years of our marriage, I would have extreme nightmares. Like, extreme nightmares. And I don't think it's very often talked about that when you deal with sexual trauma, the type of sexual life or the type of sexual experiences that you can, like, how much different they are post trauma than pre-trauma. Like, for me, like I said, I was not sexually active, during all the trauma that I experienced. Then I got into my adult years and I started to become sexually active. Like, those experiences were so different. Like, I just remember sometimes I just felt like I wasn't even there during the act. I just really could not even connect with that part of my body, my part of myself, because the little girl in me had gotten damaged and violated early on. So it's like, there's no way I could give myself fully to another human being, because a part of me is still stuck, miles away, miles away, So it took a while, like like, I was addicted to pornography for years, y'all. Like, because I was like, this is my band-aid. This was my band-aid that I could use to try to soothe myself from not thinking about all of the times that this thing happened, and not thinking about, oh, I should have done this differently, not thinking about I can do, like, this was just it became a relief, but then it also became a drug that I was like attached to where I was watching videos 5, 6 times a day, sometimes even more than that. Like, I mean, truly, truly addicted to this thing. And like, with pornography, it's such a shameful spirit that gets attached to it, right? So you don't even want to, your closest friend, like you can't even tell them because it's such a shameful thing, but it's such a gratifying thing in the same sense, right? I just remember that it wasn't until my adult age, I don't know, maybe I was 24, maybe. I don't know. I was in my 20s. I know that because I'm 26 now. And I just remember I told God, I said, God, like I have to, you have to free me from this thing. I said, because I don't see like how I can be, you know, a Christian. I'm saying that, like, not even I'm saying, but I know I've experienced your presence, I experienced your grace, I've experienced you for myself, but this other thing has such a hold on me. It's like a constant tug of war between the pornography and you. And if I'm being quite honest, God, I have a grip on you, but I got a grip on that thing too. So it's like I need you to loosen my grip over here so that I can have two hands gripping as tight as I can to you, because I know you are the thing that's really going to pull me through here. And I just remember I was like, God, you have to deliver me. And I would pray that prayer, y'all. Sometimes, not even sometimes, I would pray that prayer right after hadn't watched a video. And, I'm like, oh God, like, oh, now here comes after the climactic moment. It's like, oh God. Hey God, it's me, Margaret. Like, God, it's me again. Like, I know you tired of me, but I'm on the line again. I'm calling you. Please help me. I know it's me again, God, but please help your girl. I'm struggling. And it's like, I'm so blessed that God gave me a platform like this, because I want y'all to know it is okay to say that you are struggling. Y'all, I struggled for years, years. And this is the most public I've ever come out about it. I struggled for so long, you know, having that silent attraction to other women, and I could not I'm like, God, I know I don't want to be with a woman. I love me a man. Like, I love men. Like, I don't know why I feel, but it's like it's like he had to show me, like, this thing that happened to you as a little girl, as twisted and perverted as it was, it now has twisted your perception of, it's twisted your perception of sex, it's twisted your perception of attraction, it's twisted all of that, because, I know it may not be something that everybody agrees with. I am a firm believer that God intended for it to be man and woman, woman and man. And it's like, when things like this happen to us in that frail, intimate stage of childhood, our brains don't have the capacity to say, oh, this is just an isolated incident. This is a very bad person. Let me go seek help. A lot of the times, yes, some people will immediately go tell, and they get the help that they need. But a lot of the other times, our brain, because we are so young, it says, okay, bad situation. I need to block you from everything like it, i.e. why I hated, like, really, like, I mean, I'm sure my siblings or anything probably didn't think anything different, but I could not really be hugged. Like, I don't want to do long-term hugs and all that extra touching. I need my space and everything like that. But as a child, it's like a lot of children, they don't mind hugging and kissing, and like, my boys do it all the time, hugging and kissing. And even in my adult age, y'all, even after having them, I would like, that's enough. Okay, that's enough. And I'm like, oof. And God had to show me, okay, you're like that. And that's such a touchy thing for you because of the molestation. It's really hard for you to accept genuine love from other people, because you're like, okay, well, what's in it for you? Like, what are you trying to get out of me? And, it even turned into, I started heavily drinking, especially when the nightmares were every night. Like, I would have, some of the nightmares would just be people chasing me, trying to, like, get to me in a sexual way. And then some of it would be me literally reliving the actual sexual offense. And those were the most intense dreams. And I turned to drinking. I drank a lot. I partied a lot. I mean, I'm like, hey, one thing about me, baby, I'm gonna go get somebody party. So I was like, I'm about to party. I'm about to enjoy my life. Just constantly running. And God was so gracious, y'all. He was so loving enough to say, you know what? I see you partying, and I know that you're hurting on the inside. So I'm gonna let you have this, and I'm gonna give you just enough grace and mercy. But just know that eventually, if you are not willing to come back to me fully and willing to come back to me just as you are, because I'll take you with all that shame and guilt that you have in your heart, I'll take you with that and I'll wash you up and I'll clean you and I'll present you back out. I'll take away the guilt and the shame, but I'll let you keep the story to tell others until you're ready for that to happen. I'll give you a little bit of grace and I'll give you some mercy. It's not even a little bit. He gave me a lot of grace. Hallelujah. A lot of mercy. But eventually, he had to pull the cover off and say, you know what? You are not willing to stop, and you know that you should stop. You have some knowledge now to stop, and you don't want to stop. So now I'm gonna have to pull the covers off of you and let you fend for yourself. I'm still here. I'm an arm's reach away for sure. But that period was during my suicide attempts. That period was that period where of him pulling the covers off. Like, no, you need to deal with this thing. You need to really decide if you are gonna be in the world or you gonna be over here with me. And I would love to say I was just like, you know what, God? He cracked the sky open and I said, I'm gonna be with you. No, ma'am. I was like, okay, God, I guess I'll just be with you on Sundays then. Friday and Saturday, I'm finna be with them. So it's like, and I had fun. Like, yeah, let me just say that. Like, clubbing, partying, drinking, sexing, all of it's fun. It's fun while it lasts. But, I left empty every time, of course. Like, but during, oh, absolutely. It's fun. I'm not thinking about no repercussions. So it's like, I didn't think that I would ever get to a point where I would honestly say that I could forgive them. I knew that I had forgave them when one of them in particular had reached out to me on Messenger, and I just remember, I was talking back to them, and let me tell you something too. It's something so hard when they act as though that nothing happened, because it almost makes you think, okay, like, wait a minute. Is it me? Did I imagine this? But it's like, no, 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 no. I could not have imagined this because I know for a fact it was this day. I was wearing this. You were wearing this. This was happening. This person was in the house at the time. It's like no way that my brain could make up something like this. But what my brain was very good at, because I had experienced trauma so young, it was good at shielding me. So again, in my adult years, I didn't even realize that a lot of this stuff, molestation, all this stuff. Okay, no, this thing really did happen. Really did happen. Like, and that was its own thing to deal with because I'm like, oh my gosh, my brain completely shielded me from this experience. Like, I remember, I knew it had happened, but as far as the pain, my brain turned that off. So the nightmares, like I said, was bringing it like forward and forward and forward. And I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, this is really, really intense. So forgiving them, that was a process, absolutely. I feel it's really hard when you have to see the person. Absolutely. Like, that's not an easy thing to see someone that has wronged you in that way, and especially when they're acting like nothing happened, and now you feel like, okay, I gotta act like nothing happened. Like, that's hard on its own. But not seeing the person, I guess in a way those were the ones that were easier to forgive. But truthfully, I didn't just one day say, okay, bet I'm gonna forgive them. I said, God, I need you to take away the shame. I need you to take away the guilt, and I absolutely need you to take away the pain of this feeling from this experience. I said, but God, I have to be able to share this with other people, because I know I'm not the only person that has ever experienced a molestation. I know I'm not the only person that has dealt with masturbation, pornography. I know I'm not the only person that has dealt with those kind of things. So, I need you to be able to one day, that was always my prayer. One day, God, let me be able to tell the story. And I feel like he was like, I got you. I got you. And it's like now, even me posting this podcast, editing it and posting this podcast, I feel like I get to look at little Shania and I get to tell her, like, have y'all been seeing that TikTok trend where it's like the beginning of it starts and you say something like, okay, um, man, my podcast is not getting a lot of views. It only has 700 downloads, and I need 300 more to get monetized. And then the next picture is a video or a picture of baby you, and they're like, wait, we have a podcast? Y'all, that's literally how I feel now. Like, I don't think little me could have ever imagined that I would have the courage to get in front of a camera, say what I'm saying, have the courage to edit what I'm saying, have the courage to still post what I'm saying. Like, she's proud. She's proud. And I told myself, I said, even if I help one woman from this podcast, from this episode, I am doing little Shania justice because, once I decided that I was not going to allow this trauma to define me, I started giving little Shania her flowers because I didn't younger me didn't ask to be violated. Younger me didn't ask to be looked at a certain way because, my hips started getting a little wider, my thighs were getting a bit bigger. I didn't ask for, men to look at me a certain way. That's on them. That's even something that I still even deal with today. Like, of, okay, well, I'm gonna dress, a certain way so that I don't get stares. And it's like, baby, first of all, regardless of what you wear, you still gonna be the it girl. That's the first thing. You're the it girl, period. But the second thing is like, I really had to understand that, you know, people's reactions and stuff to, me, to my body, that's on them. Because at the end of the day, when I get dressed for me. You know, I might throw on a little bit hoops because I know my husband like hoops, but at the end of the day, I wake up and I decide to go give life another swing, another punch because I want to. And I told myself, I said, I cannot allow these people to, they've already violated, me and took a part of my innocence. They can't take my whole life. Like, yes, it was a hard reality to realize that those moments I would never ever get back. I pictured, the way that, I would, get into, sex and stuff like that to be a certain way or be introduced to, sex to be a certain way. And, when that didn't happen, that was a very hard pill to swallow. However, again, I decided that this story is going to be written by me. It's going to be written by me. Like, I got God, the original author, but the chapters to follow, this thing is going to be written by me. And I just feel like that is such an important thing for survivors to honor their younger selves. Whether you do it by therapy, whether you do it by just talking to your therapist, or you have to do the medication route, whether you do group therapy, whether you love to write, you love to sew, you love to do hair, however you give ode to the younger you, just make sure that you do it because they're deserving of that. We all have little us's, little younger versions of us living within us. It is imperative that we honor them, give them their flowers. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, younger Shania, she's so proud. Like, she's smiling ear to ear because she knows that every scar, every moment of fear, every nightmare, it was all dropped into a huge bucket that then was used to pour into a cast that was a key. She knew that every tear that would unlock another woman's heart, that would unlock another woman's pain. It would give them the courage to also be able to say, I too have a story, I too have purpose, and I too decide to live my life and not allow them to live it for me. And if I can only get that reaction that, oh my gosh, girl, your podcast changed my life from one woman, I know I did her justice. Thank you.